translation made up a staggering 4.5% overall, not of the writing, but overall. So 4.5% of the conversations with ChatGPT are categorized as translation, which is nuts. All right, back with another news episode of Slator Pod. Hi, Esther, and hi, Alex.
Hi, Florian. Hi, Alex.
Hello. Hi.
Joined today not only by Esther, but also by Alex Edwards, Senior Research Analyst based in Madrid. He needs to help us unpack a big move in the LSI world now, moving from LTP to LSI, and he'll explain us what this means. We have to just come back with another podcast before a quick 1 week break, and then we'll be back with a great guest episode. So on the agenda today, we'll talk about ElevenLabs' big move. ElevenLabs, the audio, AI dubbing, transcription, video editing platform, whatever they call themselves. Then YouTube's big AI dubbing unlock. We want to talk about a crazy translation stat from ChatGPT that was published this week. Microsoft's quite big, some would say huge, move in AI interpreting. Mistral, European LLM raising a couple of billion, and then WIPO, RFIing some work in the post-editing world. So we want to start off with ElevenLabs adding basically managed services and turning itself into what we consider at Slator an LSI, from an LTP, a language technology platform, into a language solutions integrator. Alex, tell us more. So what was the news? Why does it seem like a big deal? And then let's unpack both what ElevenLabs told us about this and what Justin Baudin, founder and CEO of Adapt Global, told us on the record today. So let's unpack this.
Sure. So, as you say, big news. ElevenLabs launching managed services, essentially now becoming an LSI. They've launched its productions wing. So they now offer experts in the loop for dubbing, transcription, captioning, and subtitling. And coming soon, they're also going to be releasing an audiobook service from $200 an hour, which essentially supports both single and multi-speaker voice casting. So up until now, they've worked with LSIs as partners. So this is definitely a strange strategy.
Big, change in strategy, and we would call them in our framework now. I mean, they were one of the most obvious LTPs, like an actual language technology platform. Like it's not a TMS, not something that like it was the actual platform. They produced the output. They had the models. They offered the API. A lot of people were building on top of ElevenLabs, their audio applications and their AI dubbing applications. And now, boom, they're going and adding a human managed service on top of this. So I don't know what to make of this. This is think this is like DeepL announcing that they're gonna post edit your your translations now for, I don't know, 3 cents a word or something like that. So this would be kind of the equivalent here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, we actually reached out to ElevenLabs to ask what's happening, and they came back to us and said that they're now going to fully manage this in-house. So they're running everything through their own platform, their own tools, their own processes. And they're not relying on those third-party partners, at least initially, for some of that volume. And it seems like it's been cooking for a while. They've hired a couple of people in-house for this. They have in-house leads for every language group, and they're on a big recruitment drive for linguists across multiple languages, primarily for subtitlers, dubbers. They're really ramping up their vendor management side. So they're going full in. They're going serious with this.
This is on a recruitment drive for linguists. So if any linguists listen to this, go and head over to the ElevenLabs recruitment page and submit your resume.
And vendor managers and
vendor
language
managers.
leads and everything else that they'll need to do such an operation.
Exactly.
That is correct. Welcome to the world of slightly lower margins and infinite devil in the detail complexity. So
It's nothing entirely new, though, is it? I mean, we have seen this trend in the past where a company like starts out as a technology company and then somewhere down the line adds services. So is this one more shocking because it's kind of in the AI era, or the scale of it? What is it that's kind of makes headline news, let's say?
To me, it's more shocking because, yeah, to me, this was the
Like
prime
epitome or something.
No, it was the prime example of a company building a platform upon which others are building their own products or services, right? So, all right, we have the foundational AI, like AI dubbing and audio capabilities, and now, okay, you come onto my platform and you build something that the end customer wants, right? While I'm charging you, maybe volume based or whatever, token based or something like that, right? And now, yes, now we're going into the world. They're going into the world of, the services, which you described with PMs and vendor management, and invoices from linguists for $25 for a little edit and things like that. So, and also
Massive pivot.
pivot or an expansion, right? I mean, it's going to certainly generate a bunch more revenue, but that revenue will likely be low. I mean, not likely, it'll be lower margin. So is that what you want for your next funding round? Plus, it may feel a little bit bait and switch for all of the people that build on it, right? So if you were an LSI and you started building on it, and now all of a sudden, boom, hey, now I'm competing with you, and you know what? I don't need you anymore, or your solution's always going to be worse than ours. Sure, it's a free market, so they're more than welcome to do this, but big move. So we also got some pricing data, Alex, right? And then we also pinged Justin Buddha from Adapt Global about his take on this. Maybe you can walk us through this.
Yeah, so on that point about partnering with ElevenLabs, Justin Bodine, the founder and CEO of Adapt Global, we kind of asked him for his opinion on this news, and he essentially said to us that it's actually good. He sees it as a tailwind rather than a headwind, because you've got this big industry player validating the need for the human and tech combined approach. It is quite YouTube are obviously offering AI dubs for free, and now ElevenLabs are offering dubbing from $22 per minute, so it's a bit of a jump. But that just shows that there is a market there for the creators, and it's still possible that ElevenLabs will be outsourcing to providers like Adapt, of course.
Yeah, this is okay. Yeah, sure. It is a signal. It is a signal that you need that, or that if you want to really make this work well for medium to high value content, you will need some type of human in the loop. And that true. I guess I agree with Justin there that this is somewhat of a validation. But yeah, it's also a pretty big threat if you're in that space.
Yeah, I think the big threat here as well is that ElevenLabs is saying that they are going after enterprises. They're not just pitching to creators, but they've also come out saying that they've got an enterprise offering. So that's with discounted per minute rates, expedited turnaround times, and also advanced pre and post processing services. So yeah, maybe that $22 a minute will be lower for those enterprises that are looking to jump on an enterprise deal with them.
Is it like attract customers at a sort of low low market rate, and then gradually increase the prices to the sort of be more standard, like a kind of Uber situation? Once you're in there with the organizations,
I'm sure it is, and you lock them in, etc. Is that price $22 a minute? That's kind of in the medium range, I guess, from what we've seen?
Yeah, that's more or less medium range. From the AI dubbing report that we released a month or two ago, we saw it as about $5 to $50 a minute, essentially, to have the human services. So $22 is probably bang in the middle. Right now, that's their starting price for the 11 languages that they offer, but they're going to be extending that, and then it depends on your actual scope, whether that will be more expensive or less expensive.
So this podcast would cost $660 to dub into one language. If you go 11 languages, then it's more. It's $7,260. I would expect perfection, and if I don't get perfection, I will chase the project manager until I get perfection, and that will lower ElevenLabs margin. I'm just kidding. All right, so basically this news comes as YouTube just enabled multi-language audio tracks, which is obviously a key use case for ElevenLabs, and the thing we've been talking about a lot. If YouTube basically opens or allows creators to upload their own audio track, boom, you have a massive new, avenue for publishing this, a massive new incentive for actually creating these AI dubbed and human post-edited audio tracks. So, Alex, maybe tell us a bit more about that move by YouTube there.
Yeah, so we describe this as a bit of a plot twist for YouTube because YouTube, they only a couple of months ago they released the automated AI dubbing feature, which essentially enabled you to click a button and generate multilingual audio for your YouTube channels in any number of languages. But the quality was so bad that creators were asking to upload their own audio dubs that they create themselves. That audio dubbing feature, that audio feature was initially launched in February 2023, but it was only available to a limited number of creators. So it's finally being rolled out across the board and essentially enabling creators to get your AI generated human improved dubbing from ElevenLabs, for example, and uploading it to your YouTube YouTube channel, or indeed self-recording your dubbing and uploading it to the channel. So there's a lot more options now available for YouTube creators.
I remember that one of the issues was, and I spoke to somebody who's very well informed on this, that for YouTube it's really tough to avoid spam or like kind of harmful, bad content on those uploaded tracks. So that's why they were super cautious in rolling it out initially. Just with the biggest creators, they have more control over. But if you if you open the gates here to millions and millions, you're also going to get some bad actors that are uploading really bad audio tracks that are maybe not in line. It's just another, I guess, attack vector for bad actors to upload weird content, right? So you
Makes sense. Yeah, they have less control over what's being said on the dubs, or less ability to sort of monitor it effectively.
You'd think that Google has figured this out, like they can churn through gazillions of petabytes of data and kind of understand what's being said on the audio dubs on the multi-language tracks, but looks like they figured this out. It does open up, as we said in the past, new revenue opportunities for creators. I mean, if you have a podcast or a show, and you can all of a sudden quite seamlessly AI dub or human post edit AI dub into a bunch of other languages, that'll increase your view count, increases your revenue opportunities on YouTube. So pretty big move.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about this as well is that the LSIs that have serviced these creators up until now, they've been creating separate channels for each language, and essentially managing those separate language channels on behalf of the creators. And now with these multilingual audio tracks, you have the ability to upload the audio directly to the original video. So it'll be interesting to see how LSIs change their kind of operating or their service mix, essentially. Whether they're going to be,
Yeah, I mean, that would be, I think that's just gone then. I mean,
The sort of
why have
multi-channel thing, like one for Spanish, one for
multi-video?
French.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, the advantage of that is you have your own language-specific community for that channel. You also have your own, maybe if you have sponsorship opportunities in each market, you can monetize in addition per market. So there are some opportunities there for the multi-channel approach. But yeah, there's now this new avenue open to creators and LSIs to offer perhaps a scaled down service.
That's just a couple of engineering steps away, though. If you think about it, let's say you switch the language selection to Spanish or Hindi or whatever, and then with that, you're also changing the type of ads that are getting played or the type, some other kind of more custom things that'll get triggered by you changing the language. Yeah, very, very dynamic environment. And probably ElevenLabs sees this and says, well, we want to get into the game here. we want to capture a lot more revenue because we need to raise our next round. No, I'm obviously absolutely welcoming anybody from ElevenLabs to join this podcast and explain it directly. We did offer it, to be honest. It was a little last second. So, so far we haven't heard back, but we'll definitely try to get them on the podcast, or because a lot of them are based in London. I hope they join us at the next SlatorCon London. Crazy stat from OpenAI about ChatGPT and translation as a use case. So let me read through the ChatGPT generated bullet points of OpenAI's research paper on ChatGPT's use cases. So it launched, obviously, ChatGPT in November 2022. We know that. In the paper, OpenAI says about 10% of the world's adults have adopted ChatGPT. If you, with a grain of salt or whatever, maybe 5%, who knows, right? Early adopters, they're saying mostly were men, but the gender gap is narrowing. Adoption has been growing faster in low-income countries. And to run this study about the specific use cases of ChatGPT, they said they were running a privacy-preserving pipeline. They also noted that non-work use, so now we're getting to the results of the study. So non-work use grew from 53% to 70% of all conversations. So it's moving a little bit away from the professional realm to the I guess, personal realm. In terms of work use, it's more common among educated professionals with high-paying jobs. No surprise there. And then and now we're getting to the interesting part here for this industry. They looked at the conversation topics. So let me try to spin up, for those of you who are on YouTube, a quick screen share here. So, okay, so they looked at what are the topics of ChatGPT conversations, and so they categorize it in broad topics such as writing, practical guidance, technical help, multimedia, seeking information, self-expressions, and other unknown. So number one category here on that list that people on YouTube are seeing would be writing, and then one of the 5 subcategories or the conversation categories is translation. The rest would be edit and critique, provided text, personal writing, argument and summary generation, and write fiction. And translation. So let's look at the translation stat here. And they reviewed this, or the numbers are big. So the paper is based on a sample of approximately 1.1 million sampled conversations that they sampled between May 15th, 2024 and June 26th, 2025. So it's quite a broad range there, or a date like
just over a year.
Just over a year. And again, let me spin up that key chart here for those who are watching this on YouTube. We're also going to link this in the show notes, so you can go and download the paper yourself. So here's the basically the chart that shows each category, like how much of these 1.1 million conversations were on which topic. And so let's look into the writing here. So writing made up 28% of those 1.1 million conversations. And then translation made up a staggering 4.5% overall, not of the writing, but overall. So 4.5% of the conversations with ChatGPT are categorized as translation, which is nuts. This is, if you think about it, let's say 10% of the population of the adult population of the world is using this all the time. I mean, you're talking about, gazillion, just a ton of translation-related queries. Speaks to the massive size of the need, speaks to the massive potential addressable market for anybody that has something that's maybe superior to ChatGPT for translation. And sure enough, somebody from DeepL was among the first people to like the post that I put out on this on LinkedIn. So
nice.
this does a giant macro tailwind to kind of for example the DeepL story, right?
It's pretty interesting the topics which are slightly ahead of translation, or sort of the areas of use. So you've got, I mean, the biggest one would be people looking for specific info, right? So that's 18.3%, like effectively using it like a search engine. And then how-to advice. So how do I do X, Y, Z? The one that surprised me, sorry, that was 8.5%. Then you've got like tutoring or teaching. So how are you using, I don't know, that one kind of stumped me a bit. That was 10% of all searches on the green bar.
Tutoring or searching. Oh yeah, there you go.
Teaching, it says, right?
Teaching.
Tutoring or teaching. And then, I mean, there's lots that I guess you could unpack here, that not all of it being relevant to us. But the other sort of interesting thing I saw here was that computer programming is quite similar in terms of usage to translation. So you've got people using ChatGPT for computer programming at 4.2%, and then translation, as we said, at 4.5%. So I know in the kind of development and product management community, all of this is very, very big.
And I thought it was bigger than it actually is, if you think about it. Like it's 4.2 for computer programming versus 4.5 for translation. And if you go on to X, you'd think that it's 90% computer programming, and basically, you know, so all of the rest would be negligible.
They're going through the fear, though. It's all right.
They're going through the fear for the first time. You know, I guess we, as in the language industry, have been going through the fear forever. May I also add that it's a bit of a chart crime, this chart here.
You don't like it?
Well,
the width?
The width probably, yeah. The width, I think, is the size.
The overall category.
The overall category. But then if you look at, like, computer programming is a much larger bar than translation. So, like,
because it has to add up to 100%.
There would have been better ways to display this OpenAI. But I remember they had this other chart crime kind of go viral when they launched ChatGPT 5. If you spent some time on X, I think there was a chart that was just like, it didn't make a lot of sense. So let me just add my 2 cents here, that this is also a little bit of a chart crime. If you look at the type of translations, it's not what you think, like what, you know, is kind of enterprise level translation. So they added this to the appendix, I think. And translation, they will give examples like, how do you say happy birthday in Hindi? Okay, barely translation. Then traduis je t'aime en anglais. Or what's good morning in Japanese? Translate I love coding to German. Or como se dice thank you en francés? Yeah.
This is not business use, though, is it? This is
not
100%.
business use.
Probably being used for academic kind of testing of models as well, I imagine. I don't know, testing of the output of ChatGPT translation rather than serious use as well.
I guess it's also because more complex examples would have breached privacy. So, you know, translate this giant contract and then they give you an example of it. I guess they couldn't put this into a research paper. But if you look at these examples, it's just very low level, almost kind of language questions. It's not really translation. So yeah, they'd have to maybe break it down further. Still, crazy stat. And Anthropic had another follow-up paper which was similar, so we'll maybe cover that in the next podcast. But yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's very helpful that they're breaking out these types of numbers and for people to understand more what people are using, you know, these AI systems for. So translation, big use case, big macro tailwind for anybody in the AI translation space. Moving on, we'll stay, unfortunately, with the topic of AI, language AI. Not unfortunately, but it's just, it's a lot this week, but that's why we call it the podcast. So Microsoft unveiled something called the Live Interpreter AI, API. Live Interpreter API is now in public preview since September 12th, and it's part of their Azure AI speech portfolio. Do you guys know how to pronounce Azure? Is it Azure? Azure? Azure?
Azure?
Azure.
Okay. I don't know, just call it Microsoft Cloud or something. So, all right, it's a big move, right? Capabilities, provides real-time speech-to-speech AI translation, 76 input languages, over 100 locales, automatic language detection. Performance, they say it offers, now look at this, human interpreter level latency. That's a new one. I've never heard that. What's human interpreter level latency?
Couple of, I don't know, milliseconds that it takes for your mouth to start moving once you've processed the information. I actually don't know sort of numerically what the average latency of a human interpreter would be, but I'm sure studies have been done.
Let's double click on that in our next podcast. Seriously, like that's a new term, human interpreter level latency. Latency to me is a very technical concept. So I don't know if a human has a latency.
But it's a lag, isn't it? It's like it's not actually instantaneous. Of course.
Yeah, but humans kind of don't have a lag. But then there's kind of a philosophical limit to how fast you can interpret, because you kind of need to first know what you're going to interpret.
Yeah.
You know, because if you jump in too early in German, then you don't know if the person has done it or has not done it. Anyway, because of the verb at the end. Moving on, fully managed service in the Azure AI Foundry. You don't need to sign an SLA. You can do a quick start early on, and then use cases, they say online meetings, customer service, education, training. Probably not hospital interpreting just yet, which is the perennial big but also complicated use case. And then they had a quick case study. Claudio Fantinuoli, one of the leading thought leaders in AI interpreting or interpreting in general, jumped into my comments there and said, it does not seem, it is big, and what makes it big is that machine interpreting, still subpar in humans, but not for long, is becoming ubiquitous, and ubiquity has a big impact on the market and society. True words, yes. So many launches of AI.
Are we going to see Microsoft pivot to become an LSI and start adding in interpreters around their live interpreter API?
That would be worth another podcast.
Yeah.
If they did that. But then again, what does fully managed service mean?
That's what I would like to know. Yeah.
Right? What does fully managed service mean?
It seems to be just that end-to-end, take out the middle guy. Yeah, the Microsoft to the call centers, just bypassing all the humans. But yeah, it's fully managed service is a bit of an opaque term, I think.
So they say delivers a fully managed service, streaming live audio with near instant translated output. Okay, fully managed, kind of in this sense, would mean taking out all the LSIs and all the LTPs in the middle. So, big of a threat here. But yeah. Again, but also, validating the size of the category, the importance of the category. Cool. Moving on, all of this needs to be run on LLMs or similar AI models, and one of these companies that are producing these foundational models is Mistral, from Paris, I think they're based, right? So, or at least in France. So Esther, they raised a bunch of money. Tell us more.
They did raise a bunch of money. Yeah, this is the French startup, Mistral AI, one of the sort of best known European startups of the last few years. They raised $2 billion or 1.7 billion euros. This is a Series C round, and it came with a valuation of 13.8 billion US dollars. This was news that was announced last week. So yeah, as you say, they've got a ton of money. The lead investor was ASML Holding NV, which apparently is for those who didn't know, is a Dutch semiconductor equipment maker. That the lead investor therefore invested 1.5 billion, so kind of a significant chunk of that 2 billion. They had a ton of other investors, including existing investors such as NVIDIA. Idea behind this, obviously, ASML, the lead investor, said that they plan to partner with Mistral. Idea being that both companies will be able to innovate faster together, of course. So I think, what's interesting here is that obviously, we've got a lot of that investment money being poured into, as we've discussed, lots of different US type startups. Here, I think Mistral is really emphasizing or kind of doubling down on the idea that they are, building sort of a European AI. I think this is sort of quite important for them and obviously for others as well. So they're saying that the new funding reflects growing confidence in Europe's ability to build competitive AI systems, ecosystems outside of the US. I think what's interesting, especially for our listeners, would be the kind of translation and related capabilities that its models are able to demonstrate. So the models have proven to be competitive in AI translation. I think they list out sort of a bunch of, I think they've been competing in sort of various like academic competitions, for example, winning in various categories. They have something called Mistral Saba, which is a model optimized for the Middle East and South Asian languages. So they're also kind of going quite deep into it, not just sort of covering, what you would consider to be the most common languages there, or the sort of typical high resource languages. And not only within translation per se, but they've expanded into document and speech processing. So they have, for example, OCR that allows high-speed and layout-preserving text extraction. They've got document AI that allows you to annotate, doing annotation and structured data extraction. And then they also have something called Voxtral, which powers multilingual AI speech translation and transcription for long-form audio. So we're right back to speech translation.
To where we started.
Yeah,
Indeed.
exactly.
Yeah, the only thing that I remember from Mistral is this like clip art logo thing they got going on. Like the logo is very kind of 90s Microsoft Word clip art thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my value add to this conversation. Okay. Final topic of today, WIPO, I think based in Geneva actually, is set to launch a Korean English post-editing tender. So anybody listening here who's in Korean English post-editing, take note now. Esther, tell us more.
Yes. Well, this might be slightly too late, published too late for listeners to actually be able to join the Zoom meeting that WIPO is inviting people to inform them a bit more about this post-editing tender. But there was a pre-bid notice published on WIPO saying they are planning to launch a Korean to English post-editing tender in the near future. I think the online info session hosted by the PCT, the translation division, is taking part right now as we speak or as we record. But essentially, I think interested parties are invited to the Zoom meeting. There'll be a presentation from the PCT about how the process works, answer questions, etc. But I thought it was quite nice because we had a sort of post from the PCT translation division director, James Phillips, posting on LinkedIn, sort of inviting everybody to join this Zoom meeting. So it seems like a very kind of open and collaborative process, at least at this early stage. What I did a little tiny bit of digging, and it seems like this the Korean to English tender is not the first post-editing tender. They did seem to launch a Japanese to English post-editing tender back in November 2024. But I could not find any contract award for that one. So it remains to be seen whether that has actually been awarded or not. At least I couldn't find it in the searching that I did. But point being, I mean, there are tenders coming out for post-editing in a variety of language combinations, sort of signaling, I suppose, where demand is being situated for the WIPO, which, as we know, has a very, very large outsource volume budget for translation and other services.
They were the first ones to, a little bit of historical background here. They were the first ones to launch NMT back in the day. I remember, I think one of our very, very first NMT articles was about WIPO rolling this out, kind of their own custom solution, maybe 2016 or something, so 9 years ago.
I do remember we used to cover it. I think we used to cover them quite a bit more.
Quite a bit more, yeah.
In the early days, yeah.
Yeah, because they were really blazing the trail there in terms of implementing it very early on, because it was such an obvious use case for them, right? So much documentation, so much kind of FYI content that some of it obviously needs to be post-edited, but a lot of it just needs to be FYI translated. All right, well, that was a big one. So we'll hope to get ElevenLabs on the pod at some point to explain their bold move into the world of language solutions integration. And welcome them onto the podcast. All right. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Esther.